We have seen actually a few examples where airdrop works, but 99% where it fails. In general, the point for the airdrop narrative is very dangerous.
We can get into like how you sell the tokens, who should be buying and all that, but ultimately token for me is a coordination mechanism. It's ultimately a coordination mechanism to bring people together.
Walrus is another good example, right? Actually, they did it in a smart way. They did it in a way that rewarded somehow people who, in one way or another, use the platform.
Gone are the days where you create a lot of hype, launch a token, no one cares about what is the real product and what's the adoption. Many of the projects will be gone very soon.
Hyperliquid, again, that airdrop for people who were using the platform for a year, used real money on mainnet, making profits and losses.
We constantly remind ourselves, like, let's not promise anything that we cannot deliver. So from day one, this is our principle. We are building a Bitcoin interoperability protocol. Our goal is to bring Bitcoin to masses, make it productive, and we want to build best BTCFi ecosystem. And we stick to that.
Today, we are diving headfirst into one of the most hotly debated topics in crypto right now, token launches. We are exploring how token launches are evolving in the Web3 space, from airdrops and retroactive rewards to KYC requirements. And teams are taking very different paths, each with its own set of implications. This conversation looks at the broader strategies behind these launches, how they impact trust and adoption, and what lessons can be drawn about timing, communication, and community expectations. So the Go Native community knows both of you very well, but it would be great if you could give a short intro that people who don't know you understand your background and the team and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to be here. And it's quite timely that we are discussing this, because as we gear up for a mainnet launch or an NFT launch, and we discuss and debate these topics every day internally, and glad that we're discussing this with the community as well today. My background, I've been in the space for 8 years, same as Robert. Started with mining Ethereum and slowly got into the rabbit hole, explored the DeFi, NFT. Finally, I find myself in this space for long term, jumped the ship, joined Polygon as a director of product marketing. I was there for a couple of years, helped launch, bring the products to the market and get the adoption, like Polygon GKRM, Agile. Yeah, it's been since like a year since we started building native, and quite excited as finally getting to the final leg of delivering the product, and quite excited for the users to see and touch and feel and get the value out of what we have been building. And prior to my crypto, I was in Web2 working for Facebook. I was there for 5 years, leading product marketing for Asia Pac in a team called Marketing Science at Meta. And yeah, even before that, I was pretty much like last 15, 16 years in the product marketing space and bringing products to the market. Yeah, trying to bring all that experience into native what we're building, and trying to get the users hands on what we're building.
Amazing. And Robert was in the podcast at least a couple of times, but still, if you could give a short intro, it would be great.
Yeah, I also have like a lot of experience, yes, but I started my career working in corporate, then in private banking and commodity trading in Switzerland. And after a couple of years, I moved full in crypto. So since 2017, I was one of the core contributors to GAFCO, Ethereum, lead engineer at Cosmos SDK, actually Cosmos Chains, few projects for Algorand. And yes, now they're luckiest to Shiva to get native out.
Amazing. And this is a very interesting topic that we are discussing today about token launches, evolution of token launches from ICOs, IEOs, IDOs, airdrops, and now we are again back to ICOs kind of situation. It's a very interesting time. And you guys are working on a project like Go Native, which I believe is going live very soon. And this is a time where you would be also thinking much more about the tactics and the broader strategy on how to execute. So I think that's why this conversation with you guys is a very interesting one. To start with, like both of you guys have been in the space for a long time. What's your view on like fundraising for Web3 projects? And that's like a general view. And
Yeah, I can start with that. Me and Shiva might have a different perspective from a different angle. Me more from the like here, like no, working with many starting startups, but also coming from traditional finance. Shiva more from marketing, working with big companies and shipping the projects. So that could be a very good experience to share. So I must say that like all the crypto yes started with magic internet money. Yes, this is something that you need to be clear. It's crypto attracted builders, attracted founders, because everyone was able to create magic internet money. And every cycle, I would say, not the Bitcoin cycle, but the fundraising cycle was a different way how we can do it. Yeah, so we were starting with ICO mania, ICO boom in 2000, I guess, 16, 17.
Yeah.
Yes, that was propelled by Ethereum. No, so Ethereum focused, okay, this is the ledger, how you can create the trustless assets. Everyone had in mind ICO whenever you do a token. Yes, there is a kind of an ICO, but that was a forbidden word.
Yeah.
Since 2000, I think, late 2018.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody could say openly about it. You couldn't write about it because that put you immediately under your radar. So we went to IEOs, yeah, so initial exchange offering. Then, yeah, so doing it through exchanges, so more regulatory routes, yes, because the exchanges, they have some regulations, but that was also not very clear. We know the stories with Binance. Binance was the heavy attack from US. Then we went to centralized exchanges. Obviously, this is not the right way because we try to issue the Web3 native asset in a Web2 native way. So Balancer, I think Balancer was the first one. They created the DEX offering, so Balancer full mechanism. So that started the era of initial DEX offering, IDOs. That was like also super interesting, right? Each of those required good traction, but everything was propelled by the same narrative, yes, creating this magic internet money. And at some point when we wanted to like create, like moving to extreme, yes, so to create, make people rich, creating it with high adoption, yes, we went to the big airdrops, huge actually airdrops, backed by huge ICOs, yes, you have seen that. And I think we get to the limit, to the extreme. And then we realize, okay, let's be clear, like all those things is just, let's just do a meme coin. And then there was a meme coin mania. I think we are back to the fundamentals. Many influencers were talking about it already last year, that we need to go back to the fundamentals.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And Shiva, you have been in this space for like really long time too. So you have also seen it all. So what's your take on that?
I mean, one of the reasons that attracted me to Web3 when I was with Meta, right? And there are so many great things that at Meta in terms of culture, and I obviously learned a lot. But also at the same time, I remember one incident where Meta changed the algorithm overnight and it impacted a lot of SMB, like the small and medium businesses who using this platform day in and day out to build their businesses and get the customers, right? But with this one change, which is taken by a few people at the top, impacted these businesses a lot. That kind of triggered this whole like centralization of power of the platforms. And that's really the trigger, like what really attracted me to Web3. So for me, like these tokens, we can get into like how you sell the tokens, who should be buying and all that. But ultimately, token for me is a coordination mechanism. It is an giving the ownership of the stakeholders who contributed to build and bootstrap the communities ultimately. So it is really bringing the ownership who believes, and like we also believe that, right? We ultimate goal is to build something, provide value, get revenue, and share that back with the community who support it, right? So this is the stance we take, and this is a reason like we choose to with the product launch, and then we talk about the token launch and all that. So for us, yeah, it's all about building the community, giving the ownership of, giving the upside of the what you're building for the people who believe in what in your long-term vision, right? How you execute that is something we can discuss about it in terms of IDOs and IEOs. But it's ultimately a coordination mechanism to bring people together who has a common shared goal of providing value to the company.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good way of articulating the idea behind that particular, like a token or things like that. But the question becomes the distribution part of it. All these things, like what is best for the team, what is best for the project, is to distribute it to a group of people that really believes in the mission and contributes to the project and all that. And that all these are mechanisms to distribute it to that group. But there will be also people who speculate on it, who wants to take profit, and all that's a part of it. In that sense, like, how do you see the way it has evolved over time, like the strategy in that sense, especially right now when you are planning to launch a project? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, started like in investing in IDOs, then we burned our hands a lot of times. We learn lessons. So ultimately, this thing has evolved, right? Like I think the latest evolution of it is there are so many necessary things in terms of the distribution, right? Like the decentralized aspect of it, the more ownership you distribute, the better it is for the protocol in terms of the governance and stuff, right? So distribution is important. And to get to the distribution, there are various aspects of it, right? There are like validators, there are users, there are also people who bring attention and mind share to the project, which is also important. Ultimately, today's day and work, there's so much information. So cutting through the noise and who actually brings that attention and mind share and share the narrative with a broader audience so that you get actually users and adoption is also important, right?
Yeah.
And there are like KOLs and appers aspect of it. And there are like a new evaluation recently, Legion, who like pre-sale goes through like a different vetting process to give the ownership for selected few people, depends on their profile. More recently, with Kaito, for example, launched the Launchpad, which also gives an opportunity for people who actually bring attention to the project. So I think all these are necessary. And from our perspective, we want to reward users who believes in a long-term vision. Because yes, it is important to have some liquidity on day one. We design tokenomics such a way that there are some airdrops but we also put a lot of emphasis in long-term ecosystem growth, right? So whoever believes in this vision for the long term, we also want to give that upside, and this is how we want to distribute.
We have some concrete examples in the recent times, right? One of the projects that did really well regarding the distribution is something like Hyperliquid. That is, and there are some recent examples of Walrus protocol and ICA protocol, etc. Robert, what's your take on the recent examples, like the recent major examples that showed us how to do this in that sense?
Yeah, I think there is one key observation, right? There are some waves. That's what I mentioned, right? The wave, how you issue the token. Yeah? So in 2017, everyone was doing ICO. In 2019, everyone was doing IEO and so on. Then around 2021, 22, everyone was doing airdrop because people believe that if you do a massive airdrop to everyone, yes, there is some wide distribution. Some people will sell it, some people will hold it. Doesn't matter, yes, but there is a big distribution. So somehow it will float. Yes, obviously the smart people, though, the degens, the farmers, yes, they will take care about the market and they will do what's needed. In general, the point for the airdrop narrative is very dangerous. This is what we learn many times in a hard way. Yeah, a few examples I would like actually to add is, Evmos. That was one of the OG Cosmos project, started from Ethermint. That was the very first Ethereum implementation as a proof of stake. Already in 2018, I believe. Back on that time, yes, it was called Ethermint, and then finally it was released as Evmos or EVMOS, I believe in 2021, 22. They did a massive airdrop, right? They were expecting that, okay, if you do it massively, then people will be building or porting the applications, try to get rich. But this is not enough. Creating a new community is a very hard task, and I think Shiva can talk more about it. Yeah, so giving away tokens it's really a strawman approach to create a sticky liquidity as a community. In the same way that we already learned many times, creating a high incentives without a mechanism that will keep the users, it's also a very bad approach, because you milk your protocol, you are giving a milking opportunities. Anyone who is smart will extract the value and then sell. Yes, because they know that it's with traditional markets. Like, how do you, when you see all this weak drops, right? When there is a crash in the market, everything falls apart. This is because the smart traders, the big traders, the smart capital, is just taking the opportunity. They know that if there is an event, there will be a sell, and they will sell at the top by later. Yes, so there is opportunity. Here is the same mechanism, right? This market get commoditized. So a lot of smart traders with a good capital, with good tooling, get access to it because it's permissionless. The value extraction is much, much higher, right? So the narrative that, hey, let's share it with community and community will make it strong, is broken, right? Because most of this community is not educated. They are not your users. They may not know how to use this application or may not need it. We've seen like many examples. We have seen actually a few examples where airdrop works, but 99% where it fails, right? So Evmos is one of such example. TIA was highly anticipated project, so it's another good example, I think. So TIA is a token from Celestia. It's also one of the OG projects. Yes, they were teaching the lazy ledger at the beginning and the whole evolution of data availability. They were talking about data availability before Ethereum was talking about it. So they had a lot of credibility. They have some users, so they could do a big airdrop. They had also massive investors, massive capital. So it was still risky. Yes, here we talk about market absorption. Yes, how much of the tokens can be absorbed by the market? Walrus is another good example, right? It's OG project, it's Western project. So everyone believes in it because it comes from the core team. There is a direct support. Everyone knows that it will do well, right? So they can afford doing a bigger airdrop. But all of them actually, they did it in a smart way. They did it in a way that rewarded somehow people who did direct action to the users. So not specifically degens, but people who, in one way or another, use the platform. Yeah, so we can argue, yes, if Celestia did a better job or Warlords did a better job. That's not the point. The point is that those are examples of projects that have a very high capital, big investors, big market already behind them. And that's a very key observation. Yeah, so this is a sort of the projects that you can do that and you can increase the community, yes, because there is a less risk of a dump. Yes, again, what makes airdrops very bad actually is that this is a free token, like literally free, and there is nothing stopping you selling it. And now imagine that for Walrus. Walrus had 10% of the full supply is dedicated for airdrops and community incentives. 4% was airdropped. 6% is to be decided. Yeah, so either a future airdrop or a community incentive. I believe most of it will go to the community incentive. So I don't know how much Walrus is liquid. I think we can quickly check. So if you think that if you have a project that at TGE has only 10% project liquid, then 4%, it's 40% of it. That's huge. So 40% sell pressure, that's very bad to the market. Yeah, so it's a very dangerous play. You need to really be smart how to do it. So my point is like TLDR now, airdrops are very dangerous. You really need to understand the mechanism. You really need to know what you do.
Yeah, and like talking about airdrops, I think Shiva, you have I think you have thoughts on this regarding a project that did airdrop very well, Hyperliquid. What's your thought on that?
See, a lot of people give this example like Hyperliquid, but yes, it's perfect in terms of the execution. We take inspiration from it, like many projects, but it's also very unique. It's really hard to replicate what they've done, right? It is a team which bootstrap because they have a lot of money. They already made millions of dollars in crypto. Amazing team, talented team, build a product that really found the product market fit in the real use case, right? And retroactively airdrop to the users who contribute to that growth. And since they haven't raised the money from VC, there's no one to dump. And they could afford this airdrop, massive airdrop to early loyal followers. Now, these followers has actually become cult now because one, they made money, they become rich because of this. And they have they don't sell it. They already made money and they believe in the project. And it's a very unique case, not easy to replicate, which is to have money to bootstrap a project like that, get the kind of distribution and find the product market fit. Yeah, my one of my favorite airdrop like project is ENS actually. 22, 21. I wanted to build something like this actually before ENS exists or before I know that it exists. And I got to know about ENS like early 21. And there is already someone built. But let me book my domain and I book let's see what .it, right? 4 letter. And I got $30,000 worth of airdrop, which is quite pleasantly surprising. But yeah, I think airdrop, I wouldn't say it's dangerous. Like how you execute is what really matters, right? Airdrop is also a distribution mechanism, right? When you talk about decentralization, you want as many owners of the network as possible. And one of the ownership is like who actually contributing to growth of the project, right? Before PG also, there is a long journey for any project, right? We've been building for 1.5 years. There are many people who have actually contributed, get the mindshare and attention that we need. And they deserve also incentives, right? So this is why they are contributing to our network. It can be on technical, non-technical, it can be any side of things, right? So they do deserve a rewards incentive. But how do you do that if you just unlock everything on day one? Obviously, if you don't have enough buy pressure, token will go down only, and then no one will be happy. It really depends on how you vest these. How do you unlock initially? There are so many things comes into play, right? So I believe it is necessary. It really depends on how you execute. But most importantly, and we always remind ourselves internally, we also spoke off the record, right? We constantly remind ourselves let's not promise anything that we cannot deliver. So from day one, this is our principle when it comes to the narrative, when it comes to how we work with the community, that we stick to our plan. Okay, this is what we are building. We are building an Bitcoin interoperability protocol. Our goal is to bring Bitcoin to masses, make it productive. And we want to build best BTCFi ecosystem, right? And we stick to that. We may not get massive following initially, but slowly but surely community will realize the authenticity of it and eventually get the support. And we are seeing that now. Same like when we talk about like airdrops or token, TGA, we only try to promise when we are sure we can deliver. I think that is very important because when you try to promise something doesn't necessarily do it intentionally because they have initial plans and then derail it and then they change the plans and the community feels they're being manipulated. And it is very hard to execute things. At least we're trying our best to make sure this won't happen.
So actually, I want to say a few more things. It also depends on what's your goal. Yeah, we need to actually understand that many projects that they don't plan to be like a big project to stay there for 2-3 years. Many projects, they have a time horizon for 1 year and that's it. They want to make money, they want to get some people money and then forget about it. Yes, crypto is the perfect venue for that. And most of the crypto was built about speculation. And I lost tons of money. I gained tons of money. You guys as well. So there is no doubt that, this market is full of speculation and each of us is building. So we don't have really much time to do a proper due diligence. Sometimes we are buying it because someone was sending us a post. Maybe we know someone. Things are happening. Life is life. And then you have the traditional startup metrics, 95% of the startup dies. And so it's really about then how much energy the team has to continue. And again, statistics says that most of them, they don't have. So what I want to say is that we need to understand, yes, that by average, most of the team will give up. And the second thing is also like many teams, they just come to extract the value, get some money. For some of them, 50,000 will be enough. For others, 100,000 will be enough. For someone else, he will aim for a few millions. And this is the fact. I have experienced it many times. And we need to be aware about that. So that's a key observation. And also related to the airdrop itself. The reason I was saying that it's dangerous because community expects airdrop. This is about that's why it's dangerous. Community expects airdrop. There is no good mechanism for a project to survive it, to sustain the market, yes, after the airdrop. Then this is dangerous both for the community, because what is community? We need to define the community. Community is not the yappers or farmers. Community is your set of your collaborators, builders, believers, right? Not the people who just come in, extract the value, and go out. And that's another key observation. Yeah. So define your community. If you're a digital project, if you don't care about like long-term value proposition, and you just look at only be alive for half a year, fair enough. That's why airdrops are dangerous.
There are a couple of points here in the sense that what Shiva talked about, and don't overpromise. Talk about your core value proposition rather than something else.
Yeah, but look, how often did you meet people who are like really overpromising? They're very good in marketing. Sometimes I'm like going in a pitch session and I'm like seeing this guy talking so much bullshit. And it because I built so many things and I can detect that bullshit from a distance. Investors, they can't, right? They don't build, they don't have the hands-on experience, they observe and they see, many of them, they can see, the strong team. Some of them, they see they know good selling skills. Bullshit is very dangerous.
Yeah, 100%. But like some of the projects can talk about their core value proposition, right? Just like you talked about native. There are projects which are unique, which enable something new, but they also decide somehow to go down a path where you attract a different kind of audience with the marketing. You talk about, okay, we need this community of people who believe in the project. So in that sense, the loudspeaker you have to reach out to these people is basically your marketing, right? And what you talk about in that sense. And if you go down a different path, where since this meme coin mania, there's a kind of marketing which attracts not the right audience. What's your thoughts on that? How aligned the marketing should be with the core messaging of your project to reach the right people?
Yeah. From day one, we had a lot of discussions and debates around it in terms of how we want to position it. It's always often tempting because, as Robert mentioned, if you don't have a strong character and you don't believe in yourself, it's easy to derail and, okay, let me also do what they're also doing because they are being successful. But ultimately, it doesn't work, right? You need to play for your strengths. And it's not mine or Robert's strengths to tell something that we don't believe in it. So we stick to, even though it's a long path and hard path, but still we stick to or tell what we believe in it, what we are building in it, what we deliver. That's what we promise. So there are discussions that, this project is doing well. Let's go into the direction of like marketing. But from my experience, like from the Facebook and Polygon and all this before as a product marketer, I strongly believe that you need to tell the core value proposition, keeping in your ICP, the ideal customer profile. Who are you serving? What is the value proposition? How do you bring value to their life? There are different ways people choose to it. Some people will like succeed, but it will be short term, right? You can only have sustainable long-term growth and credibility if you stick to what you believe in and what's your strength and what you can deliver. That's what we try to follow.
Yeah. Robert, what's your thoughts on that? I just want your thought on ICA, how ICA executed.
So ICA is very interesting, yes, because ICA is, in my view, it's OG project. It started a few years ago, very heavy tech, no marketing, no strong research, fully focused on research. And then last year, investors were telling to ICA, guys, you need to do something. There is no understanding what's ICA. And we were doing some articles explaining, but in a very heavy technical level, what is ICA. And that didn't get much reception because it was really a niche project in a very specific category without working application, going from a testnet to a testnet. ICA, one thing that's worth to note is ICA is doing a groundbreaking, released groundbreaking cryptography. So doing what ICA did is not easy. So no doubt it took so much time. Many people get tired. We should understand that, okay, ICA was over-promising. It's maybe their mental model. We need to understand it. I believe in ICA. So then investors said, okay, guys, we need to build some community. You will need to launch. So this like a technical level didn't work. So they get in a digital level and it worked very well. So they move it. When you are on the wave and you see the attraction, then you're excited, right? Because you can first, you double your followers, you have more supporters, it creates this dopamine, right? So you feel that it works and let's go into that direction more and more. Also, then the NFT strategy, right, to do fundraising. It was very hard for ICA to sell, let's say, without the community, without the market attraction in a traditional way, meaning like a public sale, through Legion, or through CoinList or things like that, right? Because you need to have buyers. Yes, you need to work on that. And if your previous efforts failed, then how you do it. So we also need to understand that. And then, so we can talk about like, was it right to go this full digital mode or not? So I went full digital mode. They managed to create community. The community, in my opinion, is not the right community because it's mainly degens. This is not like people who will use ICA. They built the attention. And since we are the main project on ICA, yes, we've been discussing that in the past many times. Saying, guys, wow, that's like going to another level. That's just scary. But they said, no worries, yes, we will move that community to native because native is the main project. Building on ICA, yeah, but nice. But still, it feels risky. So here we are, yes, ICA made the airdrop, ICA made the NFT. The airdrop was I don't remember, 95% going to the NFT holders. So actually to the investors. So it was a new investment mechanism. Yeah, so you buy NFT, you speculate, and how much speculation is there, how much truth is there, how much also what Shiva was saying before, right? How transparent you are. This creates, like, on one hand side, a good opportunity for marketing, for buying, but also can create backfire later on, right? For people who won't be satisfied. If you go to ICO, I see the price. Okay, this is my price. I know what I'm buying this amount for token for this price. Yeah, sometimes I can see what was the previous round, so I can do some calculation. So I have those things more clearly set. Right here, when everything is about speculation, it's more challenging. Yeah, so that was the main, I think, that's how, what happened with ICA. Yeah? So moving to Degen and getting the speculation. I think they succeeded in general with that. Was it good? Was it bad? It's hard to evaluate. Definitely it worked. Part of the community is not happy now. They still get NFT that they can sell. They can get an airdrop. I don't know the answer. I don't know like the outcome. So are they going to make it full or not full? So if you calculate, I think it was about 6%. So 6% of 400 million market, that makes us 24 million, correct? So the full airdrop is worth 24 million. So that's a lot. And on top of that, you have the whole market value of the NFT. So those guys should, of course, some guys who didn't do well and speculated, obviously, you will have losers, you will have winners, you have big winners, big losers. But that's part of the speculation game. All right. So people who were too degen, obviously were not happy and they will be yakking because this is the nature of degen. People who understood it better, yes, probably they are winners.
I think the plan was correct in my opinion, but maybe the communication could be more transparent. I think the mismatch in terms of the expectations and like a mismatch in the expectation that led to a little bit of what we are saying today, right? But I think ultimately, yes, I agreed that some things could have been done, but let's not discount the fact that ICA is one of the best teams in the industry, one of the best researchers. I'm saying because I worked in ICA. I directly worked with the founders and the team. before we started native. Ultimately, they build the product that is unique and very valuable, and that's how we are like leveraging it. So it is a lesson. There are so many good things. There are a few things they could have done better, in my opinion, but it is a short-term thing. Right? Ultimately, they built a great product, and the product will also.
Yeah, got it. And one question about the the strategies that you use to, like, once you see that, oh, there are like a lot of speculators here, there's sort of like a real community in the sense that you defined earlier, and there's people who believe in the project, contributors. There could be lot of speculators in that. So then you apply tactics like mdrop and all that. Does these tactic really work? Is it better to get the drama over on the first day of the TGE, or is it there's a reason why all the team VCs all have vesting schedules, so applying the similar thing to the people who are kind of investors in this also makes sense. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, I can start. So firstly, yes, like me and Shiva said, that this Degen approach is dangerous, right? Because it can fire back, and you will always have someone, unless you reach everyone, then you will always have someone that is happy and not happy. And I think what ICA did was right with how they played with the airdrop and then the distribution, giving like a big rewards to everyone, making like everyone super rich without having that sticky users. You know what Celestia had, Hyperliquid had, right? Hyperliquid, again, that airdrop for people who were using the platform for a year, used real money on mainnet, making profits and losses, right? They rewarded real users. Yeah, so ICA couldn't do that, right? So they had to do something. We could argue, the rights did a batch. Me personally, as for me, that was too degen, but they, in a way, they succeeded, right? So they didn't fail, and they succeeded. That's also something they need to understand. And I believe that Sui is full in for ICA, supporting. Miston is supporting ICA. So it's not like a project that is going to go away next year. Yes, what I was like mentioning before. Yes, you have marketing teams that will go full degen approach only because they want to have like 1 million, 10 million to the team, and then walk back, cash out, and then call it a day. So ICA is definitely a thing that is going to stay, that I sincerely believe, and many people believe as well. And yeah, but obviously Degens won't be happy. That's the cost of it. That's definitely a cost of it. That's a cost of also of the speculation. Like we said with Shiva, yes, this is not our approach. Me personally, I don't like too much degen. They had to find a solution. So this is the solution they found. So if you go that solution and you have investors and you are really looking long term, then you need to protect the market. The worst thing your token can do is like 10x drop. Then nobody will care about it. Game over. So they had to protect the market. So mDrop is really a clever mechanism in my opinion, because now if you understand that NFT mechanism, NFT vehicle for getting some extra money and getting some users and distribution to people, it's a form of investment. Very degen, yes, but form of investment. Then naturally there should be vesting. If you go to the public sale, you have vesting. Yes, if you're angel investor, you have vesting. VC investor, you have vesting. It's always like that. You do ICO, there is vesting. So by the way, we are back to ICO. And so that's normal. Yes, I'm not, and the vesting is only 3 months. So people who are yapping about, oh yeah, 3 months vesting, give me a break. What is 3 months in crypto? Like TLDR, it's necessary given the approach they took.
So watching all this, now we have like a high level view of the things happening in the space, historic view of how these things have developed. Shiva, how can you bring back trust again in these kind of token launches? How can you make it like authentic?
We definitely thought a lot about this in the last 1 year, and especially Robert spent a lot of time in designing the tokenomics. It's his passion. I learned a lot from him as well. We don't have all the details laid out in terms of like how we're going to do the token launch as we approach that. Like, our focus is to ship the the product and get the adoption, bring value to the users in the community, then we launch the token. So in future, we'll lay out the proper plan and be very transparent about it. But principle, the one thing we follow, and not just what I'm saying, but we're going the same approach with the believers, right? For example, right, like BTCFi believers NFT, the approach 22 is we're not deciding what should be the mint price. We are letting community decide what should be the price, right? So we are giving community an option to decide what we are worth, how much trust we have, right? It can be low, it can be high, it doesn't matter, right? We want to give the power to the community to decide that, and we accept whatever the results. So we took this approach of secondary price auction, where it is one of the very battle tested and proven methodology that was used in many in the industry, including in Facebook. We use this for auctioning the advertising spaces, right? In ads on in Instagram and Twitter or Facebook. This is how the auction happens in terms of like bidding for the advertising space between different advertisers, like a secondary price auction, which is a fair and transparent because you don't pay high, at the same time you don't sell for low. It is the right way of price discovery when you have a lot of people involved, and now we choose to community to decide it. This is the approach, like we want to give an option to the community, let them listen. Even in our token, we will be very transparent about what we will be doing and how the vesting will be, how we design our tokenomics, who gets how much, what is the proper allocation. We do have consideration in terms of the token airdrop and initial contributors who help in our journey for last one year, but at the same time our really focus is the long-term vision, who will be with us for this long term. And we design tokenomics such a way that it is then incentivized for that long term and shared goal from the community.
And what's your take, Robert?
Yeah, if you have a big market, yes, you can play more interesting games. If you have a big supporter like Walrus, a massive project with a massive company behind it, yes, you can be more open, yes, more generous, right? So for us, as Shiva said, yeah, we want to go with a steady approach, long-term approach. I may say that at the beginning, the first token design we created was heavy on community. Yes, was 80% of token was supposed to be dedicated for the community fund and split into various treasuries. Yes, split in various ecosystems, categories. And we opt for voting by leaders, so we had like more sophisticated governance structure. And then like the team and investors had only 20%. Everyone said, no, we don't like it because we feel like we don't get enough, there's not enough control. The team, like if the token is too cheap, the team will not have enough vesting interest to stay in the project. And I said, yes, our goal, so our North Star here was TorChain. So TorChain had a launch with 4 million FDV, I believe, or something like that, only a few millions, but had a very wide distribution. And people were using it, yes, because it was the first mechanism how you could do interchain swaps. And it grew massively. Yes, it went to a few $billion. From 4 million to a few $1 billion. So that was our initial approach. Yes, we wanted to make it really, we believed as we, our mission, the believers' mission, the native mission, right? Create the ecosystem, work together, the alliance, the stewardship, all the things that we create, right? It's we cannot do it alone. So everything was driven by that vision that, there is this huge, today you don't have a good funding mechanism for Bitcoin. Yes, there is no Bitcoin Foundation that can give you money. There is no investors of like Bitcoin that will invest back to the Bitcoin ecosystem because they have a different thesis. The thesis why people buying Bitcoin is not of the Bitcoin ecosystem. It's clearly related to the Bitcoin as an asset, not as a chain and the ecosystem, right? People who buy Bitcoin, they really don't care if there will be new application on a Bitcoin or not. They build Bitcoin because of its adoption as an asset. right? We wanted to create that for Bitcoin as an asset, that ecosystem with the flywheel to create that magical flywheel where the value can propel, builders can propel, and users, yes, will be just growing. And like I said, yes, we got the pushback from investors. It was hard to do it by ourselves alone. And then we went more to a traditional approach, but still wanted to have that. There's another threshold. So 80-20%, this is the threshold I think the original Ethereum distribution was. And then the next one is 40-60%. Yeah, so 40% insider, 60% the ecosystem. Yeah, so this is where we target. And yeah, we did it very hard. We had to argue many times with various experts that this is the way we want to promote. And I believe this is the right way for us. Obviously, everyone has a different strategy, but for us, for long term, for such a unique project as Native, we believe we need to be really open and have that, in the one sense, yes, have that approach from TorChain. So get users early on the journey and have the tokens available for rewards for growing the ecosystem.
And do you have a tentative date on when Native is going live?
Yeah, we're like discussing it every week. Optimistically, we love to do it in September. Realistically, October.
I think it will make a lot of sense to revisit, have a conversation after the launch, a month after the launch or something, and talk about how things evolved. You're looking back at reflecting on how the launch was, and I would really love to have that conversation again. And I think if we can end the conversation with one thing, that is, if from both of you, if a project, if a team is starting to build in Web3 right now, having a long-term view on this space, what is the one thing that they must keep in mind regarding this particular topic, like token launches, distribution, community building, and all that? If there's one thing, one advice both of you would give to them, what would it be?
Yeah, so I can start. Actually, I want to give two advices, right? One is about now what's behind the project. Is there's a real long-term value or not, or only the marketing, right? Because if it's a marketing, then you just use the Degen approach. If it's a long-term, yes, then see the ecosystem and you need to do a bit more due diligence. And the second thing is that I really think that this airdrop mechanism is interesting. This is something that I will see like more and more. I will see more adoption around that, because this is the evolution. Like we are talking really for more than a year of giving more fundamentals and like fundamental way how the schemes of investing, yes, so not buying the liquid market, doing early on, is always related to protecting the market and serving your users, long-term believers, and prioritizing that.
Yeah,
airdrop is designed for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. But I would like probably take a step back and say often we get lost in the sauce in the tokens, right? Like ultimately for builders, the best approach would be build something that you believe in, go out to the market, release the MVP, get the traction, iterate on it, try to find the product market fit, bring value to the community. Then you can talk about your token. From the beginning, if you think about token launch and trying to get the exit liquidity, I think that's even like the wrong step one. But of course, once everything is working, it's your also responsibility to make sure your network, again, going back to the earlier point, token is about coordination mechanism. Then you need to distribute in such a way that whatever you build grows and community has built in that growth journey. And then, yeah, of course, there are like different, it keeps evolving, right? What works today keeps changing tomorrow. So you want to adopt and see. Gone are the days where you create a lot of hype, launch a token, no one cares about what is the real product and what's the adoption. Many of the projects will be gone very soon. Right now, thankfully, that narrative has changed. Now people are realizing is that it's all about long-term system, actual revenue, actual usage. I'm very glad that's happening.
Amazing. So Thank you so much, both of you, for taking the time to break down this topic. It's a topic that is omnipresent but not often talked about. So it's cool to have this conversation, and looking forward to native launch, and all the best. You guys have done amazing work and built an amazing community as well, and really looking forward to see how you guys execute on this. And I'm thrilled to interact with the protocol and use it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for your work, for supporting the community, the ecosystem. It's very important that we have a stable ecosystem in SUI and beyond, yes, because this is the way how we really onboard millions of users.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, thanks so much, Suraj, for having us today. It's amazing what you do for the ecosystem, and we really love what you do. And we're looking forward to work with you more on this type of things. And a lot of exciting stuff. Stay tuned for more.